They're strongly held opinions, and the difference that just one actual personal relationship can make in that process. But it got me to thinking about changing our minds more generally, how that happens, and more to the point, how we choose which direction to change it. We each have a worldview that's absolutely unique, the product of our genetic inheritance, our upbringing, and our life experience. When we see or hear something new, it's filtered through the lens of our own world. We tend to accept those things that fit with what we already believe, and to reject those things that don't fit. The part of our worldview formed first, our genetic inheritance of our childhood, is the most resistant to change. It's been there the longest, it got laid down first, and most of the time we don't even question it, unless of course we're therapy. So how does change come about? Certainly one way is long and slow adaptation. The easiest example of this is what happens in a long-term relationship like a marriage. When you meet a couple who've been together for a long, long time, it may strike you that, wow, they just really seem to fit together. You know, they can practically finish each other's sentences and know what the next move is going to be. I guarantee you it wasn't like that on the day. They went through a long process of discovering who this person was and agreed to spend the rest of their lives with. And adjusting, call it sanding off the rough edges, right? And sometimes you give a little and sometimes they give a little. As long as the relationship is more important than being right, eventually you come to a place where you really do fit together. The other way, though, that change comes about is abrupt, like a wake-up call. Something happens, you read something, or even more impactful, you experience something that doesn't fit in your current world. And then you have to decide, what am I going to do with this? I heard it, I saw it, I was there, I can't deny it, but I really do not understand what just happened. For many people, their stories of these kinds of experiences happen around the time of someone dying. The veil is thin, and you get what Rachel Remen calls glimpses around the corner. Things happen that there is no other way to explain it except it's a glimpse around the corner. It's a glimpse of what's on the other side of the veil. You get to decide, am I going to do something with this new information? Or maybe pretend I didn't see it. But I do think that's one of the reasons that Jesus did so many people. We read all the way through the Gospels about Jesus healing people. Partly he did it because there were a lot of medical issues in the first century and not doctors. But partly he did it because a demonstration of something unusual like that captures people's attention. And it cracks their minds open a little bit, allows them to hear the words that you're about to say with maybe a little more openness. How do you know when you have an experience of something new, whether it comes from a place of good, light and dark, as the Gnostic movement. Here I'm using good, or often love with a capital L, as a shorthand for vibration states, things like truth, beauty, justice, peace, all of the things that we have some inherent affinity for. And heat is a shorthand for low vibration states, like anger, intolerance, and prejudice. And if you want just a value-free description, then hold on to high vibration and low vibration. It's literally an energetic thing. Everybody has right emits vibrations, and when you're in a state of high vibration, you feel different and you put out different kinds of vibration. So the question is, how do I tell if this is a high vibration kind of a message or experience, or if it's coming from someplace I really don't want to pursue? The Didache is the first century training manual for very early that we're going to start reading Wednesday discussion group. Says to judge the veracity of a wandering prophet's prophecies by how the prophecies come out in the future. Kind of like Bible fruit, you will know them. If what they said eventually comes true, I must have been a really prophet. Yes, that's great. The only trouble is that takes a while. And very often we want to know in the moment, should I listen to this person or not? You need something a little more immediate to be able to bounce those ideas off. That's why it's crucial to have developed your own internal compass. We talk about this in a lot of different ways as your capital S self as opposed to the small s self, or the still small voice, divine spark. However you like to image that part of you that is at a high vibration. The difficulty is it's overshadowed in the volume of messages. The monkey mind, chatting with you, give you advice. And that's why we have spiritual practices like meditation, centering prayer, or long walks in nature, or however it is that you get in touch with that still small voice. Because that voice is always at high vibration and it never lies to you. It always tells you the truth. The more practice you have in accessing it, and when you need it in the moment, you get a way to use that as an internal compass. Your body, your physical body actually knows the difference between messages of high vibration, which is the whole thesis of Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. He offers some techniques actually for distinguishing. And again, it's a matter of training yourself so that in the moment when you need it, you have like the instant message. But back to wake-up calls. You could have your whole outlook changed by a single voice. Certainly the people listening to Jesus in the stories and the Gospels had their outlook changed, but it doesn't mean necessarily a terribly charismatic person. It can just be context and the moment and the courage of someone speaking. So I was trying to think of a way to illustrate this point. And I went back to a story that Jay Powers told us way back when he and Kathy were members of the church, and we were doing our spiritual journeys for the very first time. And we wrote down how we got to where we are and what we believed, and then we shared the story with each other. Jay was a lawyer, retired, very progressive lawyer. He and Kathy moved out from Colorado. Jay actually passed away a few years ago. That was horrible. Home accidents where he fell off a ladder. It is dead and never regained consciousness. To this day, every time time I stepped even on a step stool, I think of him and I'm super careful. Shameless plug for home safety. That stuff is usually so I don't think he would mind if I shared this little story from his growing up years. He grew up in the South in Alabama, in a small town. And this story happened when he was a senior in high school. And I think I got the dates right. It would have been about 1961. So I'm just going to read you what he wrote. So he says, later that summer, my father, legally my stepfather, but the only father I've known, my natural father, was still at work. My father inadvertently felt called upon to make a speech. He invited me to go along with him at a big meeting of all the adult, white, of course, males in the community. His meeting at the local Elks Club was in fact an organizing now. When we drove up and I saw the parking lot full of pickup trucks parked all over the surrounding lawn, shotguns and rifles bristling on window racks, I was not just nervous. This was a macho redneck gathering with hundreds of guns. The speaker and organizer was Byron, later convicted of murdering Mr. Evers. He showed an inflammatory short film that depicted blacks as monkeys, black males as leering would-be rapists of white women. He quoted the Bible to prove that God made blacks inferior, commanded whites to rule over blacks and keep the races completely separate. He demanded that we males show our manhood, defend our white women, deal with troublemakers and outside agitators by teaching men and women rights for blacks, and follow the life of God's holy word. The local businessmen, although quite a few women also had businesses, they were not invited to the meeting. And anyway, there was no such concept. The local businessmen were asked to speak. When my dad's turn came, he was very clear in his condemnation. Your Bible is not my Bible, he said to the speaker. Your Bible is a Bible of hate, but my Bible is a Bible of love. The only outside agitators around here are people like you. Why don't you go back where you came from and leave us alone? After that, one of our neighbors, another businessman, got up and agreed with that father. So did some others. Despite what seemed to me a big redneck presence at that meeting, the Ku Klux Klan was never able to organize. It's a real little piece of history. And Jay's dad wasn't like some, charismatic prophet speaker. He was just like a regular guy at this random town. But in the moment, he could tell the difference. He knew what this guy was saying was wrong. And to quote the Bible to do it. So he stood up and he spoke. And that made the difference. Because there were other people in that group, other people in the audience who agreed. And as soon as he opened his mouth and said, "This is where I stand," then he's got company, he's got other people, but somebody has to stand up and speak first. One man with the courage to say, "My Bible is a Bible." Jay's story illustrates something I've been pondering. And it's probably going to just keep showing up in sermons until I figure out what my answer is. Why is it that when he seems so strong, over and over, love is what comes through and love is what comes? I think it's actually almost a physics question, an energy question. Heat, as I said, is a low vibration state. And you remember that famous line of Martin Luther King's, "Hate, return for hate just makes the darkness deeper." That's what happens when heat comes at you and heat back. The vibration gets lower and lower. Heat is essentially a destructive force. Nothing looms out of heat, but things definitely do get destroyed. And ultimately, here's my thesis, I think. Thinking about it. Ultimately, heat becomes so destructive that it's self-destructive. And the picture for me is, okay. Remember the Disney animated movie Aladdin? Remember the end when Jafar, the all-powerful greedy guy, is like busy torturing everybody. And Aladdin tries to trick him by getting him to realize that the genie is more powerful than he is. Right? His power does exceed my own. He uses his last wish. I want to be an all-powerful genie. Yeah. Okay. An all-powerful genie. And he gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then he is limited. Because genies always come with a limit. And the manacles, the shackles go on his wrists. And Aladdin's holding up the lamp saying, you got it. Great cosmic powers. And he's captured the genie in the lamp. And then, of course, it's almost as if when he gets so big, it overreaches and it ends up destroying itself. On the other hand, high vibration states like love and truth and justice are generative, they are creative. And love adds to love and something good comes out of it. But it always starts looking like it's so weak it can't possibly do anything. The dandelion coming up to the ants fall. But you know, if you don't do something, you don't do something, eventually those dandelions will take over your garden and your house. I mean, it's the power, it's the life force in love that means that it will last. Yeah, that is the direction. But these two powers, the love and the hate, the light and the dark, good and evil, always seem to be present in some kind of tension, some kind of balance, and always love is the one. Okay, that's my thesis for the movie. That